So welcome back to KM Builds. This is part 2 of putting the Touran seats in the Caddy. If you missed part 1, the link is in the description. It'll show you how we got the seats in, the rails and the carpets. So on this video, part 2, we're going to be putting all the side panels back on. There's a bit of trimming I got to do together for the seat belts. We're also going to be putting the seat belts in, putting all the plastics in, hopefully giving them a bit of a clean because they are a bit dirty from the car that they came out of. Putting the rear rubber mat in. So there's a lot to do in this video, so let's get cracking on and stay tuned. The first thing I'm going to look at is the trim that goes across here. It needs quite a bit of trimming, so I'll get the seat out and lay the plastic and show you how it looks without the trimming, and then we'll get the trimming it. So I got the plastic off. As you see, obviously the rails are in the way now, whereas this plastic panel, they normally tend to sit around here. As you can see, like the rail is in the way, so I'm going to need to trim all along there just to get this to sit in place before I can then put the piece that sits on top of here and then trim that to the shape of this. So I'm going to trim this now. I'm going to take little by little just so I can get as good a fitment as possible. And then once that's back in, I'll show you what it looks like. First piece of plastic trimmed. As you can see, I've had to trim around the rear rail and the front rail. I think I may have cut this a little bit too far, but hopefully it doesn't look too bad. I haven't popped it in properly yet, so it's still not fully fitted in, because I'm going to have to now get the piece that sits on top of here and trim that to this. This is a trim that sits next, so I'm going to have to trim it to sit flush and basically cut up here. I did trim it so I could fit it in previously, but all this is going to be cut off anyway. So it's going to take a bit of trimming. Not sure which way I'm going to go with it yet, but I'll trim this piece now, fit it in, and try and explain then where I've trimmed things and where to be careful of. So next piece now in, it looks like I did trim that a little bit too far, but hopefully with the seats in it's not going to look too bad. And then at the back I've kind of trimmed a little bit too high, but again, hopefully when the seats are in it's not going to look too bad. So that piece finished. So it does slot down over the plastic, so that pops on there like so. So yeah, so I'm just going to do the same the other side. I wouldn't really show you that because it's basically the same as this side. All the plastic trims now fully fitted. Could have been a bit better, but we did what we can with what we had. I guess the only thing this side is that kind of plastic there fits the panel that came out. But when the sideboard goes off, or on the side, sorry, I'm hoping that most of this gets covered. If not, I'm going to carpet the same as the sides. So my next plan now is to cut this rear carpet and get the rear rubber in place just to get this back looking a bit tidier, because the carpet from the Touran doesn't fit the back of the Caddy. So that's my next step, is to cut this out and then get the plastic in. Rear carpet is now cut and out. Before I can put the wooden panels back in, I have got to seal up the holes from the rock and roll bed that I had in here previously, just to stop any moisture or water getting in. So I'm going to just tiger seal a piece either side of them to seal them off before I can put the panel back in. I've filled up the holes now, so they're all sealed tight. I've trimmed the board that goes underneath the rubber mat to the right size for the carpet. So the next plan now is to trim the carpet basically the same size as this board, and then put the rubber mat in. All the plastics and carpets are all finished now. Just give you a quick look of how it is. I did paint the wooden board underneath black, just on the edges, so it didn't stand out so much. I've now got to start working on the seat belts, which basically bolt to this pillar here. I have got to remove this black board here, which that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to get this board out, have a little look what we're dealing with, and then start to make a start in the seat belts. The panel's now taken off. Now you can see that this is where the bottom of the seat belt fits, so there's not really any modification needed. This just simply slides in, hooks onto there, and then bolts through the hole. So I'll get that bolted in place and then show you. So it's bolted fully in place. So the next one is the the top bolt. However, I am missing the spreader plate that sits behind, so I'm gonna have to order that. But that will sit like so and bolt into a captive nut behind. Once that's in place, then I've got to take the lower bracket, and that will be bolted through the wheel well to there, and I'll probably add something in place to stop this spinning. So yeah, so I'm going to now order the top spreader plate, and then I'll get that bolted in. But that's how the seat belts work, as you can see there. Yeah, so I'm going to order them, and then when they come I can finish these seat belts. A couple of days have passed now, and I've gone against buying the spreader plates as they're about 20 or 30 pounds. So I decided to make my own, as they're basically a spacer with a nut. So what I'm going to do is weld the nut to the back of this plate, which then sits behind the panel, and then the bolt for the seat belt will bolt through. I'm also going to drill a hole and rivet it to the panel so that it doesn't move as I'm tightening and stuff like that. When I remove the seat belts for anything, the bolt will then stay in place and doesn't fall down into the panel. So I'll get this welded, painted now, show you what it looks like, and then I'll just place it up behind and get the top of the seat belt bolted in. So the spreader plate is now finished. I've just got to feed it up through the bottom now so that it sits like behind this panel. I've also drilled a hole so that I can drill a hole on the outside panel and rivet it in place. I've just got to hook using probably this wire to get it in position before I can rivet it in place. Once it's in place, then I'll show you what it looks like before I bolt it on. So the plate is now riveted in place. As you can see there, I've put the bolt in. So I'm going to now put the top of the seat belt in, and again show you that. And that's the top of the seat belt fully finished. As you can see, it can swivel properly. Everything works as it's meant to be. So now I'll start working on the bottom of the seat belt, which gets bolted to the arch. So moving on to the bottom, I'm not going to bore you too much by showing you all of this, but all that happens is I drill a hole through the arch, and then this gets bolted right against the arch. Obviously you've got to take the arch line in from behind the wheel well to get the bolt into here. So I'll drill the hole and put the nut and bolt on this now, and just show you what it looks like when it's sat and finished. So the seat belt now bolted in, and that's the seat belts pretty much fully done. So they're all bolted in nicely. So I'll put the seats back in now, just to show you what they look like when they're put in. But then the next thing then is to start moving on to the panels. So I'm gonna have to cut carpet this year, and I think I'm going to cut a square out of the board that goes onto this panel so that I can a leather seat belt come through. But I'll show you all that when we move on to it. So yeah, I'll show you the seat belts now against the seats. So these are the seat belts fully in place. They look pretty good. So the next part now, as I said, is to move on to the side panels, but I'm going to do that another day as it's way too warm in our unit today. So I'm going to come back possibly this weekend and try and get the side panels finished, and then that's almost the conversion done. But as far as the seats are concerned, that's the conversion finished, but it's just me getting all the finishing touches now and what I already had in here. So a couple of weeks have now passed just due to being busy, but the seats are now finished and all the panels are now in. So the seats are still a little bit dirty, just need to give them a wet back. You can now see the seats. I thought I'd show you the bit of the back of the van before we finish. As you can see, seats fold, you've probably seen that already, and they come out. So this way we get full access to the back of the van for anything big if we're moving stuff, etc. So the bits I've done outside of videoing, I have cut the holes for the seat belts to allow them to retract properly, same for both sides, and I have put the light switch in. We do also have the starlight roof line in, but you're not going to see that in this light, so I might have to try and get some clips in the dark. And I've also covered the wheel arches. They're not so good, but they do the job. Overall, very happy. The seats being VW seats originally, they fit the whole van style really well, so really happy with how they look inside.
Drop any comments with any suggestions or what you think, and any queries or questions, again, drop them below and I can try and help as best as possible. We'd also appreciate if maybe if you could drop a subscribe and keep an eye out for the future videos and what we do for the van and all the other projects we have going on.